Good evening, guys. Welcome to Master of Crypto. This is the voice of Ken Akure. We've had several classes, learning a lot, and getting to know the different areas and the different concepts of cryptocurrency. Today, I would like us to look at DeFi. DeFi means decentralized finance. And let me read this slide. DeFi is a system by which financial products become available on public decentralized blockchain network, making them open to anyone to use rather than going through middlemen like banks or brokerage. Unlike a bank or a brokerage account, a government issued ID, social security number, or proof of address are not necessary to use a DeFi. More specifically, DeFi refers to a system by which software written on blockchains make it possible for buyers, sellers, lenders, and borrowers to interact peer-to-peer or with a strictly software-based middleman rather than a company or an institution facilitating the transaction. I'm going to explain more. So in essence, Bitcoin was the first DeFi. What is DeFi? Decentralized finance. Bitcoin is money. So you can say Bitcoin is a financial product or a service. Now it is decentralized. Bitcoin is decentralized in that it's not owned by anybody, not controlled by anybody, but collectively by everybody involved and participating in Bitcoin. So that is an example of a DeFi. Bitcoin was the first DeFi. But right now, there are many more DeFi doing more complex things. For Bitcoin, for example, the only thing you can really use Bitcoin as a DeFi for is to send money, receive money, But other DeFi platforms, which we'll look at later, have become more sophisticated in that they are trying to do what traditional banks do. They are trying to do what brokerage companies do. They are trying to do what's it called? Which other one? Betting platforms. They're trying to do what betting platform does. So, for example, if you have, let's say, 2 million naira, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to use this 2 million naira for the next 1 year. So instead of you keeping it in my account, just putting it in my savings account, let me approach my bank, tell them I want to do a fixed deposit. So what does the bank do? They give you a form to fill, to be sure everything about it, take information, and tell you that for doing fixed deposit, we'll be giving you, let's say, 8% per year, or is it 12% per year? I'm not sure. So you're like, fine. So you put in your money, they give you your percentage at the due time. That is finance. Do you understand? That is taking loans or loaning money, or saving money or fixing money in finance in the traditional financial world. Now, in cryptocurrency, DeFi helps you to do that without needing a bank. So there are software codes, like I'm trying to explain here, that can say, okay, if you lock this money on this software, on this program, you are going to get part of our business, part of the profit or the revenue that we generate. And that revenue can be as much as, let's say, 100% a year. Yeah, there are some DeFi that are that much, 100% a year, some 300% a year, if you lock your money with us. So instead of going to a bank and fixing your money and asking for ROI that is small, you can carry your money and, of course, giving it to a bank that can fold one day, that can fold up one day. Do you understand? It's better to now, so some people feel, why not do it? Because that bank, when you give them your 2 million and they promise to only give you 12%, they might be making as much as 60 or even 100% of that money. But then they won't give you everything. Why? Because they are taking on some form of risk too. They're taking on some form of risk. So they cannot give you too much of their profit. Why? Because they need it for running costs, to pay staff, to run the company, and all that. But if you bring it to DeFi, It's a software, it's a code. So they don't need to rent a physical office building. They don't need to pay workers' salary. So the monies that are meant for all those other things are now being used to reward the people that are using the DeFi platform. Let's go to the next slide. So highlight of a DeFi. It's a global open alternative to the current financial system. DeFi has products that let you borrow, save, invest, and trade. DeFi is based on an open source technology that anyone can program it. And you look at some of the terms used in DeFi. You have annual percentage rate, APR. You have APY, annual percentage yield. And your APR refers to the annual rate of interest that is charged on borrowers and paid to investors. So like what you do in the bank, if you give your bank, say, I want to deposit this 2 million, the bank doesn't just take the money and start spending it. They take that money, look for a person or a company that is willing to borrow money that will pay interest. So they tell you, we're going to give you 12%, for example, collect your 2 million. Then behind your back, they give your 2 million to a company, let's say Dangote, and tell Dangote that we're giving you this 2 million, but you're going to give us 30% interest per annum. So when Dangote gives them 30% per annum, they collect the 30%, give 12% to you, the owner of the money, and they keep 18%, use 18% for their running costs and all that. Now, that's in the traditional financial market. So they've taken money from the person that is saving, person that is giving the money to hold, and now they are now giving it to borrowers. So they take money from investors and they give it to borrowers. Now, so there's a return, there's a yield. So in DeFi too, you can do that. Now, in DeFi, there's a term also called staking. Now, staking is like a fixed deposit. Why? Because in staking, in fixed deposit, you have to tell them, okay, I'm fixing this money for 1 year. When you fix it for 1 year, it is fixed for 1 year. You cannot come and say, I want to unfix it. They will charge you a penalty, and most times you even lose some of the profits or interest they're supposed to have. So in the cryptocurrency space, when you stake an amount of money, you're going to leave it for the period that is being staked. Some could be 2 months, some could be 10 days, some could be 2 weeks, some could be 6 days. Meaning after staking, you cannot unstake until after those days. And there's nothing you can do that will make it change. Why? Because it is the code, it is the software. Once it works that way, and once it's designed to work that way and it kicks off, nobody can change it. So in DeFi also, you have what is called yield farming. Yield farming is a high interest savings, like something that you have in the traditional finance, that you open a high yield savings account, meaning the kind of interest that you get on that savings account is not the same like you get on other accounts. So in your bank, to open a high yield savings account, you might need to have a very huge capital, then not be withdrawing the money regularly. That will be their conditions. So in yield farming too, it's similar. So what DeFi does is that it just takes the concept and the terms of the things that are already happening in the traditional financial world, and tries to implement that on the blockchain without the need of a middleman. For example, now let me share my screen again and show you some DeFi platforms on CoinMarketCap and on CoinGecko. All right, so here we go. All right, here we go. Where are you? Okay, here we go. So let's say you come to CoinGecko. If you come to CoinGecko, you can see here you have home, coins, exchanges, then you have DeFi, decentralized finance. Now you want to look at this based on the project that are DeFi projects. There are many of them. This can only give you an idea. Okay, now these are DeFi projects and they do different things. Now you have Uniswap. Is a DeFi project and is an exchange. Uniswap serves as an exchange, and an exchange is like a broker. In your traditional finance, an exchange is a broker. What is a broker? It helps merge one person that wants to sell an asset with another person that is willing to sell an asset, and it merges them. So instead of going to a centralized exchange that is owned by one person, where the funds can be hacked or stolen, you come to a decentralized exchange, a decentralized broker. A good example is Uniswap. So if you, okay, so Uniswap is a DeFi platform. So let's go to Uniswap now and see. So let's go to Uniswap website, uniswap.org. So this is Uniswap. So you come here, you can see liquidity providers. Liquidity providers are like the people who are putting down their money. Let's to speak. The analogy I gave between an investor and a borrower, like the bank collects money from the investor, gives who is willing to save money on fixed deposits, and gives it to the borrower who is willing to do business or do something else. So both of them are happy. All of them are happy at the end of the day. The investor gets his interest, the borrower gets capital to do his business, then the bank gets profit for their effort, So Uniswap, so click on use Uniswap. So under use Uniswap, there's an exchange. You can exchange one token for another. And as an exchange, what happens? We are generating fees. So this fees is going back into this platform called Uniswap. And the more people that trade on Uniswap, they are making a statement that we believe more in the value of Uniswap. It's a good project. And when there's a trade, what happens? The people who have acted as investors by providing liquidity are rewarded in those fees, those transaction fees. If I try to exchange now, let's say I want to buy Ethereum A, or let's say I want to use, okay, let's do the other way. I want to use my USDT to buy Ethereum. I have $1,000 I want to use to buy Ethereum. Now, to facilitate this transaction, this Uniswap will charge me a fee. That small fee goes to the Ethereum network. Then the other fee, part of that fee also goes to the pool. So let's click on the pool. Now, a liquidity pool, that's what it's called, is where people who wants to create liquidity, meaning loan money into Uniswap, so that people who are transacting can transact easily, provide what is called liquidity. Now let's go back to another DeFi project. Sorry, so let's look at DeFi. So look at Uniswap. This one that is PancakeSwap is very similar to Uniswap. In fact, it does almost the same thing. Then you have Compound. So these are DeFi tools. Some of them are acting as exchange. Some of them are acting as brokerage, which is exchange. Some of them are acting as a bank that is giving out loan. So now let's look at PancakeSwap. PancakeSwap is acting as several things. So let's go to PancakeSwap. Let's go to their website, pancakeswap.finance. Okay, so in PancakeSwap, these are the different things you can do. You can do farming and staking. I gave you an example of what farming and staking is, like fixed deposit and a high interest with account. Why? Because you're putting down money, allowing people make easy transactions, not with your money, but in a liquidity pool, then you are getting rewards. You can even do lottery with PancakeSwap. Then this is the APR, annual percentage rate. Yeah, annual percentage rate, 56% in farms. That's farming means you put your money and you stake it for a long time. You get 56%. So for a lot of people who are not greedy, this is a lot of money. Meaning if you put in like $1,000, sorry, like $1,000, and things go well, in the course of a year, you can make 56% of the invested capital, depending on the farming pool that you invested. And of course, so let's look at PancakeSwap now acts as different things. You can exchange. So this is acting as a brokerage. You can exchange, meaning swap one coin for the other. You can also provide liquidity, as I've been trying to explain. Liquidity is like serving as a supporter to the brokerage firm, meaning, oh, this is a brokerage firm, but we need more people that have money to come into the exchange so that when people want to exchange one coin for the other, it can be done smoothly to reduce what is called slippage. Now, your liquidity. You can add liquidity. It's not hard when you're ready. Then farms. Now, these are the different farms. These are the different farms. This thing is not loading. There should be a number here. Okay, that's loaded now. Check BNB. This is the annual percentage rate. Very high, 56%. You know, this is very high and it's risky. Then you have this one gives you 18.37% return per year. You know, so this is how the farms work. So what do you do in farming? In real life farming, you put a seed of corn in the ground, you water it, you clear the weed, you go away, and you come back for what? A corn. So in farming, in doing farming too, on the blockchain, you're doing something similar. You invest your money into a farming pool, then allow it to grow, yield, and produce interest as people transact and use within that farm. You know, so that's what DeFi is in essence. You know, like I always say, you guys have to learn more. So come to this DeFi place, read what the different DeFi projects are trying to do. Some of them are trying to do different things. The ones I've reviewed have acted as exchanges, as banks. Yeah, some of them are prediction markets. You know, different uses for different. Thank you guys for joining. Now, I'm sure you now understand what DeFi means. You know, so go ahead, research more, learn more. That's how you become a well-grounded,